The seat drop can be varied in many different ways. Beginners like to allow themselves to fall into the sitting position even if they're not asked to do so. This is perfectly safe to do from a low jump height and quickly leads on to a basic form of the seat drop. The seat drop can be rapidly improved with increasing practice. When conducting a seat drop in its correct form, the arms are extended upwards above the head. The body remains completely straight until it reaches the upper reverse point and attains a slight backward tilt. Body posture remains unchanged from the takeoff to the upper reverse point. For the downward movement, the outstretched arms are brought down in front of the body, the hips bent, the upper body remains slightly tilted backwards. At the moment of landing, the legs are placed down flat, the upper body has a slight backward tilt, and the hands are positioned diagonally under the buttocks and placed on the trampoline bed, the fingertips pointing towards the feet. When the body hits the trampoline bed, it creates a funnel-shaped dip. The arms must remain relaxed and bent at this point. If the arms are straight, the participant is propelled forwards. At the lowest point, the upper body is still slightly tilted backwards, but the back and head are straight. One variation of the seat drop allows the hands to be placed down alongside the thighs. Although the sitting position is stable, there is considerable risk of falling forwards onto the feet. The pressure on the lumbar spine can be increased. Most participants perform the seat drop straight away. It can also be easily prepared on a gym mat. The participant bounces on the trampoline in the sitting position in order to get a feeling for the seated landing. To practice managing the propulsion from the trampoline bed, the participant jumps into the standing position after several seated landings. Then the participant allows himself to fall into the sitting position from the standing position and immediately afterwards jumps back onto his feet. The feet must be pushed forwards for the seat drop. A slight backward tilt is necessary. What starts out as a swinging movement gradually becomes a light jumping movement. After several successful attempts, the arms are extended upwards during the lead-up jump and the exercise repeated. In order to enforce a minimum jump height, another jump is added after the jump into the standing position. For example, a tuck jump. At first, beginners are cautious about adopting the required tilt position in the air. This results in the heels landing before the buttocks. The upper body usually moves over the legs, which are then often bent. In this case, the participant should be issued with the instruction, "Push your hips and feet forward at takeoff," or "You have to be slightly tilted up in the air." Beginners often end up on their backs when practicing the seat drop. There are two possible reasons for this. The participant performs the last straight jump leaning slightly forwards and ends up in a backward tilting position already before the takeoff jump. The trainer instructs the participant to hold the last straight jump on the spot and to perform a vertical takeoff jump. Another trigger for the backward movement can also be the hips moving backwards due to a lack of body tension. This problem can be addressed with the instruction to perform a strong takeoff jump, as well as tension exercises on the floor. Jumping with open legs is not a technical, but an aesthetic problem. The problem can be corrected by a short instruction as well as tension exercises on the floor. Participants can be forced to keep the legs crossed by placing a piece of foam rubber between the feet. Fear of not attaining the seat position at the right time leads many participants to bend the hips too early. Performance can be improved by a high number of repetitions and the instruction to keep the body stretched in a straight line. If the backward tilt is initiated too early on during the takeoff jump, the sloping position is so extreme that the upper body is also too far back during landing. Learning the seat drop leads naturally on to practicing the jump to feet at the same time. The exercise can be realized in the first practice session. When standing up, the participant propels himself strongly from the trampoline bed with his hands. The upper body remains slightly tilted backwards. Immediately after the propulsion, the hips are straightened. The arms are straightened upwards and pulled up forwards into a vertical position. At the highest point, the body is completely straight and tilted slightly backwards. The same position as for the seat drop. The body posture does not change until just before the landing. The hips and knee joints are bent, the arms remain outstretched above the head. In order to facilitate a more powerful takeoff jump for a follow-on jump, the arms can be pulled up forwards after the propulsion, brought down to the sides of the body before the highest point, and positioned back above the head for landing. For participants who only attain a low jump height, the arms can be brought down to the sides of the body directly after the propulsion from the trampoline bed and positioned back above the head for the downwards movement. To stabilize the jump to the standing position, a follow-on jump is included in training. When standing up out of the sitting position, many participants tilt the upper body forwards, which then brings the entire body into a forward lean. If the participant swings the arms out in front and pulls them right up over the head, the error is corrected. The instruction can also be given to tilt the body backwards when standing up. If the hand propulsion from the trampoline bed is too weak, the participant ends up slanted backwards when standing up. The instruction to push off with more power is enough to correct this problem. If the body is tilted too far forward during a seat drop, this can cause the legs to fly upwards and result in the body tipping over backwards. The participant must not actively raise the legs during a seat drop. A good way of describing the ideal landing technique is to encourage the participant to imagine that the hollow of his knees is the first part of the leg to make contact with the bed. This error seldom occurs, but sometimes the participant overstretches the body when standing up. A slightly more relaxed overall movement and maintaining muscle tension in the stomach prevent this overstretch. Types of landings such as the seat drop, back drop, and front drop can be combined with twists. The simplest variety is the jump from a sitting position with a half twist to feet. This can be introduced at an early stage. The propulsion from the sitting position must be powerful to facilitate the twist with an early body stretch. This stretch position is maintained until shortly before landing. Then hips and knees are bent for landing. The movement is stabilized by adding a follow-on jump. Participants usually learn the jump in its entirety, but if this method does not work, the twist movement is divided up. Most participants arrive at a half twist very quickly by way of a gradual build-up. Errors committed when conducting the half twist from the sitting position are usually the result of a bad jump from the sitting position to feet, for example due to weak hand propulsion from the bed. Once this is improved, it also solves the problem arising in the target jump. If there is no hand propulsion, the participant ends up tilting backwards and leaves out the twist, or lands after the half twist with a heavy forward inclination. This error is usually only committed once and must not be corrected. If the upper body is bent forwards during the propulsion, this also usually means the twist is left out, or the participant ends up with a heavy backward inclination during landing. In this case too, the jump to feet without twist must be improved, then the target movement is also usually improved. The seat drop can be combined with a half twist. This jump is not difficult to learn and can be practiced during early training sessions. The twist is initiated from the ankles directly from the trampoline bed. The body is slightly inclined forwards. The body stretch is maintained until past the upper reverse point, until the end of the half twist. The hips are not bent until after the twist during the descent. The arms are brought back down. The legs are placed down horizontally during landing. The upper body is slightly inclined backwards. The head is straight. The hands are placed down diagonally over the buttocks with the fingertips pointing forwards. As preparation for the half twist into the sitting position, no trampoline is required. The jump can also be prepared on a gym mat. On the trampoline, the exercise can be repeated from the standing position. Then, a light swinging movement gradually becomes a light jumping movement. Most participants learn the half twist into the sitting position in one step. If learning the entire jump at the same time does not work, the twist is divided up into sections. Firstly, the participant does not land on the trampoline in an extended position, but turns before the jump an eighth of a twist against his usual twist direction. Then the participant jumps with a part twist into the sitting position so that he lands in the usual seated position. The pre-turning before the jump is gradually increased until the half twist has been attained. When the jump is being executed correctly, the feet are pushed backwards to achieve the necessary presentation. The inclined position is often attained by pushing the upper body forwards. A reminder that the feet should be taken backwards is often sufficient. Otherwise, the takeoff point in the direction of the padded floor is relocated to restrict the landing area. If the twist momentum is not correct, the participant lands on the trampoline in a slanting position. A high number of repetitions quickly solves the problem. The same procedure is appropriate when the twist momentum is too great. If the slanting position before the seated landing is too slight, this forces an early pike position. This then leads to the twist movement being interrupted, which means the participant lands at an angle on the trampoline bed. The problem is solved by improving the initial slanting position. If the slanting position is too slight, this can also mean that the upper body moves over the legs during landing. A reminder that the slanting position needs to be greater yields a better jump quality after several attempts. When conducting a jump from the seated position with a half twist into the seated position, this combines two seated landings in one jump for the first time. Theoretically, The jump can be repeated indefinitely, although the jump height diminishes quickly as there's no real takeoff jump. The takeoff is performed from the sitting position with a powerful push-off. The hips are extended early, the arms brought up straight above the head. The twist is initiated with the takeoff. A quarter twist is completed at the upper reverse point. The body is in a vertical position up in the air. During the downward movement, the arms remain where they are until the half twist has been completed. The body inclines slightly backwards. The arms are brought down forwards and the hips are bent. The hands are placed diagonally under the buttocks for landing. The upper body leans slightly backwards. Prerequisite is the seat drop with a half twist to feet. Helpful is the half twist from the standing into the sitting position. The second part of the latter is very similar to the second part of the target jump. When the preconditions have been met, the jump can be learned in its entirety. If the quality of the jump is bad, the partial learning method can be applied. On no account is assistance required. The participant performs a half twist to feet from the sitting position. The momentum is completely killed on landing, and the participant allows himself to fall into the sitting position. He is not allowed to actively jump. The length of the pause between landing and falling is gradually reduced so that the transition becomes fluid and the target jump is soon achieved. Most participants try to initiate the twist with the arms, not with the hips. This involves not raising the arms above the head, but winding them around the body against the twist direction. Interspersed seat drops with a half twist to feet helps to develop a sense of how a twist should be initiated. Fear of not being able to complete the movement or not being able to pass under the body with the feet means some participants dispense with stretching the hips. A half twist from the sitting position to feet is also a good way of developing a sense of jump height and time available to perform the movement. A slight backward inclination is necessary before a seated landing. In combination with a half twist, a position must first be attained that becomes a slight backward inclination after the half twist. Fear of tipping forwards means many participants push themselves too weakly off the bed with their hands and end up with the upper body over the legs for the seated landing.